here is a package from Nintendo. Been playing Zelda. You can show the TV. Got it docked. Just reached the first dungeon, which I wish I could tell you about, but can't yet. And inside here we have some embargo documentation, and we have the wondrous 1-2 Switch. The little game cases are so fun, and this is the second game I've got, obviously, Breath of the Wild, and now this, so I figured we would open it up.
Let's be very honest. The Switch 1 launch lineup, lackluster at best, right? It was like a biscuit without any butter. Yes, there was Breath of the Wild, which turned out to be a Titanic title, but that was a Wii U crossover at the time, and nobody really knew how it would be received. We also ended up having a Bomberman title, Snipper Clips, Skylanders, 1-2 Switch, Fast RMX, Disgaea. Like, it was pretty darn bare bones. Now, IGN is predicting that the Switch 2 launch lineup is going to be absolutely insane, and I'm here to tell you that it's actually going to be in between. Like, it's no secret the Switch 2 launch lineup will be significantly stronger than the Switch 1's, but it's not going to have every game under the sun, and developers and publishers are going to be very cautious of the fact that, hey, we want to get titles out here, we want to support this system in a way that we didn't support Switch 1, but we know Nintendo, especially day one, is the dominant party. So what's going on, everybody? It's Zach from SwitchForce. Welcome to my Switch 2 launch lineup prediction video. The games that you'll see on the first day that you can buy for your system when this thing finally releases. We are hours away from the reveal, so I thought this was a fitting time. IGN's a little crazy. They're like giving you all the big Nintendo games that we're anticipating. They're giving you Enhanced Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, Ring Fit Adventure 2, RE4 Remake, Doom the Dark Ages, Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remake, Halo Master Chief Collection, Metal Gear Solid Delta, The Haunted Chocolatier, Earthblade, which is the follow-up game from the developers of Celeste. Like, there's just no way we get all of that. I do think that it's going to be a very strong lineup, but IGN is kind of looking in the wrong places. So let's kick it off with the Nintendo titles, because I think these are the ones that everyone just wants to get out of the way. My pick is going to be Mario Kart 9 and Nintendo Land 2. I think that gives Nintendo a nice title to boost the online multiplayer and the more hardcore community, and gives them a more local multiplayer title and one that's for families. And if we're to believe the leak that the C button is indeed referencing chat, community, grouping, things of that sort, Nintendo will want to aggressively push the multiplayer components of this console. Hey look, the Joy-Con are better when you flip it sideways and play multiplayer. Hey look, the online is better. We've got groups and you don't need a freaking friend code. I think 2 multiplayer titles might be a really strong start for Nintendo Switch 2, and allow them to save the bigger game like Mario 3D for the holiday season. Now, I don't think Nintendo is going to release 3, 4, 5 first-party titles on day one. They would self-cannibalize, and most likely they are going to have enhanced versions of their already existing games. It's TBD to see if Nintendo is going to charge like a $10 upgrade fee, release a separate box. How will they even handle Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, which we expect to release kind of on both consoles, maybe simultaneously, maybe shortly after another. I think Nintendo keeps their first-party output, though, pretty slight. And that'll be because they do have a significant third-party support, and they want to make sure that they regularly release first-party titles as the year progresses. What are we going to get from third parties? I do think we'll get some major titles, and I think the headliner is going to be Monster Hunter Wilds. That game comes out in late February, and so it's a perfect fit for whether the Switch 2 releases in March, April, May. It's going to be a very popular game, a very big game, another multiplayer online focused title that Nintendo can capitalize on. And we know Capcom loves Nintendo. Monster Hunter Rise was developed first and foremost for Switch. They gave them an exclusive Monster Hunter, which shows just how much they do value Nintendo. Will Capcom dip their toes into other waters, say Resident Evil 4 Remake? Eventually, but I think these publishers, I don't know if they're just going to unload on the first day, especially knowing that people are forking over $400 or $450 for this console, and then the inevitable purchase of Mario Kart 9. Not going to be a ton of money on launch day to go around, and so maybe they will be a little bit withholding, and then they can release other titles later down the road. Ubisoft, though, will definitely push too, because they've got to get Just Dance 2025 out there. And then I think Assassin's Creed Shadows, after its recent delay till March 20th, is another perfect fit. The Switch 2 should launch right around that time or soon after, and they can say, hey, we're bringing our biggest franchise and our newest game to your platform. That is a sign of commitment, and that is Nintendo probably working out a deal with Ubisoft to give them a major piece of their advertising in their directs, in their marketing. I think Assassin's Creed Shadows has a chance to be a notable game that the Switch to highlights in its trailers and in its advertisements. Final Fantasy VII Remake is something that has leaked out from Nate the Hate, and it feels like a great gift from Square Enix and a great game that will say, hey, Nintendo can do this too. Nintendo Switch has these franchises as well. Plus, it's not something that really is going to be earth-shattering. They are not porting yet Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. We know that Remake is already ported to PC. They're going to be bringing it to Xbox. I mean, they can just port it over and start with a little bit of an older title. And to be honest, it feels like the Square thing to do. I don't see them bringing Rebirth and Remake on the same day. Although I do see EA dropping Star Wars Jedi Survivor and then Jedi Fallen Order on the eShop. I think Jedi Survivor actually did really well sales-wise. And I think many of EA's recent titles have flopped. I think if we look in reverse, besides the sports games, it's Jedi Survivor that they're kind of looking at. We know that game sold significantly better than Star Wars Outlaws. Bummer for Ubisoft, great for EA. And EA kind of canceled the Dead Space franchise, so I doubt they have any interest in porting that over. They could give us the much anticipated Mass Effect trilogy on Switch, but I feel like that game would really fly under the radar, especially as it's something that doesn't capitalize on the Switch 2's hardware capabilities. It feels like many of the games that come out on launch day will try to really show that Nintendo can push the limits when it comes to visuals. And I'm sure Nintendo is working that out themselves to say, hey, we want to make sure that we have top tier titles to show this off. And that's why I think we'll get Silent Hill 2 Remake from Konami. That game was way better than many people thought it would be. One of my favorite games of 2024, a great title, and one that looks really nice without doing too much. Like, I think they could still achieve that on Nintendo Switch 2. And it's a really fun game, and it fills a void in this horror genre, in this mature rated genre, that not many other games are going to be in that wheelhouse when the system launches. There'll be a few, but like that's sort of your like super mature horror type title. I think Sega brings Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii to try to boost and give a buff to the Yakuza franchise, as opposed to releasing Metaphor ReFantazio right out the gates. They could drop Metaphor, but we did hear Brazil qualify today that he's heard launch window, not launch day, and maybe they do want to try to give some shine to another game that could kind of benefit from being another launch day game, as opposed to just going all out with Metaphor, and they can make a bigger deal out of Metaphor. Maybe they release it alongside some sort of DLC or some sort of Game of the Year edition, and they can put it on Switch as well as the other platforms. I think there's going to be a ton of major franchises that are all competing for real estate on store shelves, as well as real estate on the eShop, as well as real estate in fans' minds. So this is going to be a humongous day, but it's not done yet. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero or Tekken 8 will probably come in from Bandai Namco. We know they're big supporters of the Switch, and I'm guessing they'd love to get a multiplayer title on the system. We've heard the rumor of Tekken 8, although Dragon Ball Sparking Zero might be a better fit for the Nintendo audience. We'll have to see what they choose to do there. And I think Red Dead Redemption 2 will hit not only because of that leak from a French retailer, but also because I'm sure 2K wants something to put out. I don't think they're going to go far back to the Borderlands and BioShock well yet again. I don't think Mafia is probably the right fit. I think RDR2 is the best that they can do, unless it's GTA 5. But Red Dead Redemption 2 is a newer game. Red Dead Redemption 2 still looks very nice, and Red Dead Redemption 2 can show like, hey, we can make a humongous, big, awesome game playable on the Switch 2, and I think it's one that would sell better as people wait for GTA 6. Maybe buying GTA 5 is going to feel a little bit like an afterthought. The last game I'm going to mention here is I do believe Hollow Knight Silksong will be a launch title for Switch 2. As goofy as that sounds, where else will they possibly release this game that will do justice to the wait that we have suffered through? Hollow Knight Silksong is an indie title, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of indies, but I don't think we're going to get a bunch of them. I don't think we're going to get at least a bunch of top tier, like, oh, brand new Earthblade, brand new Haunted Chocolatier. It's because those games will thrive at a Nintendo Direct. Those games will thrive at a Nintendo Indie World. Those games will thrive during a week where there isn't a major other title. Hollow Knight Silksong can compete with the bigger AA, AAA titles because of how much hype there is beyond that game and how much anticipation there's been over the many years that Team Cherry has said absolutely nothing. But this would leave us with an insane launch day that is just peppered with the most popular franchises in gaming. Who knows, maybe Microsoft does decide to drop something like the Elder Scrolls Oblivion remake, or they bring the Halo Master Chief Collection, as rumored by Nate the Hate, over to the Switch on launch day. But I do feel like there will be some companies, and perhaps even one or two that I mentioned here, that will choose to save their, quote, bigger title for a different day. perhaps Ubisoft will say, you know what, Assassin's Creed Shadows does need to come later, and we're just going to launch with Just Dance 2025. Although I think Ubisoft's in a position where they need to guarantee sales, and the launch window for Switch 2 will be a great time to do that. Perhaps EA decides to push a little bit and save their games, but if you are going to be releasing games from a year, 2 years, 3 years ago, in the case of Jedi Survivor, or even more so in the case of Red Dead Redemption 2, you're not really risking a ton. You know that you have new games from EA and new games from 2K coming in 2025 that can also have a chance to get a bite of the Switch hype and the Switch 2 launch cycle. So I think stuff like Final Fantasy VII Remake is like fine to put on launch date alongside Mario Kart 9. Stuff like Dragon Ball Sparking Zero Tekken 8 is fine to put out alongside some of the other big top tier titles. The ones I guess that would be a little bit riskier would be something like Monster Hunter Wilds, but that's going to have a ton of market share at the time and should just be snowballing off of already strong, solid sales on the other platforms. And then, maybe we do get some wild cards in there. Perhaps EA also wants to put Dragon Age Veilguard because that game did not sell so well, did not find a ton of critical love, even though I think it's better than people give it credit for. Maybe it can get a second chance at life on the Switch. And then Hi-Fi Rush. We've heard Hi-Fi Rush was in development for Switch. It kind of did not come out. There was the whole debacle of shuttering the studio and then the studio kind of getting acquired and restarting and confirming development of Hi-Fi Rush 2. Who owns Hi-Fi Rush? How is it doing in terms of its port? Will it release on Switch 2? But I think that's another wild card to watch out for. This would give us like 15 super solid titles, and maybe I'm still shooting a little too high. Not as high as IGN's list. The difference here is we are mid-cycle, and we are making a humongous power leap for Nintendo that opens the door for so many games that have previously been inaccessible to the Switch audience. That's why I think things like Final Fantasy VII Remake, Assassin's Creed, Silent Hill, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Red Dead Redemption 2, all of these games would love to get on Switch 2 early to show their support, to build brand allegiance, and to give these games a chance to double dip. Why not get out there early when players don't have a ton of choices? Because look, is Silent Hill 2 Remake going to be a stronger chance for purchase at the start of the Switch 2 or at the holiday season? Many of these games that are looking to get just a second chance at sales, I think will come out launch date. And then perhaps some of the bigger ones, like a Metaphor, where I think you're guaranteed quite a bit of sale, that could be saved for later. That could be saved for some sort of bigger fanfare, bigger moment, a la Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, porting to other places and also to the Switch 2. The Switch 2 will soon just be another platform on the laundry list when you're porting your game to a bunch of different places, and so it won't be novel after a while. That's why I think there's going to be a nice blend of some older games as well as a bunch of newer games, and then obviously Nintendo's brand new bold games, and smaller companies will have their own unique titles as well that aren't all dipping into, hey, this has been out for 2 years, this has been out for a year. There will inevitably be more new titles, and maybe one of these publishers decides to take a crack at a brand new title. But I think knowing that Mario Kart 9 and maybe Nintendo Land 2 are launching alongside the system, these publishers will take a backseat and say, you know what, Nintendo is going to be putting so many sales through on day one with their titles. Let's just give people a smorgasbord to choose from, and then we'll slowly build up our lineup and maybe even release exclusive titles, exclusive versions of our franchises, partnered titles, things of that sort. Or maybe they just don't have to do exclusives anymore because development for Switch 2 will be much easier. Either way, let me know what you think of this launch day lineup. Is it too insane? Does it sound just about right? What the heck would you pick up? I know I'd be grabbing obviously Mario Kart 9, Nintendo Land 2, Monster Hunter Wilds. I'd really have to grab Hollow Knight Silksong, and then I'd probably want to see how a game like Jedi Survivor worked on the Switch too. I'd want to get a bunch of different genres in there to see how they handled, how the Switch 2 handled them, how the performance went, how the visuals looked, how it was docked versus handheld, and we're going to have so many comparison videos. It's going to be absolutely insane. But let me know your take in the comments down below. What games would you like to see most on launch day from Nintendo Switch? And do you think that there will be a bunch of heavy hitters from these popular franchises that have not cracked the Switch 1 library yet? I really feel like that'll be the case, but let me know your take. Until next time, everybody, stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive out there. Love you lots. SwitchForce out.